Plan now, harvest later. So we're going to show some tips about gardening, talk about some nutrition benefits of some of those foods, obviously, and then we're going to do some recipe demos at the end. So thanks for being here with us today. I'm looking outside and I'm seeing a little sun, which is encouraging. I know spring is really coming. So but we wanted to talk about the growing body of research that suggests that food gardening may not only help us to make healthier food choices, but also we can eat more locally. So these foods are growing in our backyards and on our patios. And if you don't have them there, you can get them at the local markets. They offer solutions to decrease risk of chronic disease, help with food insecurity, even social inequities sometimes. If you can grow your own food, it might be less expensive. And then those are all, a recent National Institutes of Health study. So we are finding some research that's giving us some evidence to talk about this. Gardening in the United States has really increased in popularity, which is exciting and may be helpful to contributing to the goals of eating a variety of those locally grown foods.
And Mary, did you know that gardening is the #1 hobby for people, both men and women?
Yeah,
so that's really neat.
It does give you, we're going to talk more about it, but it does give you some physical activity, which is awesome. And there's a growing bounty of literature, that the benefits of home community gardening suggest that it helps improve health, it helps produce meaningful amounts of food, and provides benefits to our ecosystem as well. So does it really, what do you know about these health benefits in gardening, Nancy? Does it really provide benefits for us?
Sure does. So what we know is that gardening yields a particular kind of food, fruits and vegetables. So U.S. adults of all socioeconomical groups eat much less of these foods than recommended. So only 1 in 10 adults meet the federal guidelines for consuming adequate servings of fruits and vegetables.
1 in 10, that seems really
low.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is 2.5 cups of fruit and vegetables a day. Sometimes people think of it as 5 to 7 servings or 6 to 8. And you don't have to measure, but when you take those opportunities making a salad, you can incorporate several vegetables, even some fruit, things like that. But in 2015, only 9% of adults in our country consumed enough vegetables each day. So we also know that gardens add to the excitement of eating something healthy because you grew it. And you think of including kids in that too. It's when you kids are at that start to finish and they see the process that vegetables and fruits go through, they're more inclined to eat something like that. You create a greater appreciation for how food is grown, like carrots don't magically appear on our grocery store shelves. They come, by truck and everything. So we also find that gardens provide opportunities to practice preparing nutritious foods and new foods overall. So Mary, does research show that gardening can actually help us make healthier food choices?
Yeah, what we're finding is that there have been a lot of randomized controlled studies on the health benefits of gardening. And we do have a few studies that really give us some good information now, which is nice. I feel like we kind of know that it's better for us to be outside and we're getting some activity.
And food costs is going up, so.
Right, growing your own. And we're going to talk about growing herbs today, which I think is really important. But for example, one of those studies, adults with a household member who participated in a community garden, like the gardens in Geneva, and there's some in St. Charles, in an urban setting, consume fruits and vegetables 1.4 times more per day than those who did not participate in a garden. And I think, there are a lot of reasons for that. You're closer to the food, you're picking it, you don't have to go to the store. And then when you're talking with people in the garden as well, you're learning about how to prepare it, when it's ready. And we know that we're going to talk a little more about the nutrition too.
When you plan a meal, then take a step back and see what it looks like. And if you're missing something, like if you were going to have a sandwich and you have some sliced cucumber or some tomato, cut it up and stick it inside the sandwich. Or just little things that you can tweak to add to your increased intake of fruits and vegetables.
I tell some of my pediatric patients that pickles count. So we also noticed that adults that were participating in a garden that were 3.5 times more likely to consume fruits and vegetables at least 5 times daily. So there are a couple of different studies there that show that really it is helping to increase that fruit and vegetable consumption. So research is also statistically significant, shown increases in fruit and vegetable consumption among youth participants. So getting our kids out there in the gardens after implementation of a gardening intervention at a school or community facility. So that was a study that was in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics in 2017. So we are finally getting some evidence and some research to show that being outside, digging in the dirt, growing our own food is really going to make a difference in healthy eating. And then we know that those fruits and vegetables are decreasing our risk of chronic illness.
Yeah, and when you said they're likely to have 5 servings a day, then they would meet their needs. So
right, you're really getting
good progress.
close.
It doesn't
Exactly.
take a lot, but just keeping it in the forefront when you plan meals to include some of those foods.
I feel like too, a lot of times you hear that number, and if you're not a fruit and vegetable eater, you think there is no way I can do 5 servings a day. So what we usually suggest is try adding in 1.
Or
Some
a half a
people,
cup. A half a cup is 1 serving.
exactly,
Much.
right.
No.
No.
Yeah.
So try adding in 1 per week even, or 1 per day. And it can be fruits, it can be vegetables, and maybe try some that you haven't had in the past that are your
It
favorites.
can be as simple as carrots and celery with a little yogurt dip, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then add a
Doesn't
few
have to
red
be
peppers maybe
complicated.
next time, maybe some sliced cucumber, you know.
right.
Increase your intake.
So do you feel like we're usually eating the number of servings of fruits and vegetables that we need? We found out from the research that we're not.
Right, I know. So we were saying that only 1 in 10 adults meet the requirement. So in fact, 7 of the top 10 leading causes of death in the United States are from chronic diseases. So eating a diet rich in vegetables and fruit daily can help reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and death, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, endometrial, and other cancers.
Yeah, so that's really a lot of benefits, and we really want to.
Yeah. So Mary, why do we need so many servings of fruit and vegetables each day? Aren't a few servings enough?
Yeah, few Americans are eating the recommended amount, and they're putting them at risk for those diseases that you talked about. So the recent central CDC report showed that your risk of diabetes or cancers are all going to go up if you're not having those. We know that there are little micronutrients in those fruits and vegetables that are helping prevent. And we are learning all the time about some of those nutrients that we never even knew before. So a lot of times we do get the question about, can I just take them in a drink or in a pill? And that's the problem, because we know that those little micronutrients, we're not going to get those if we take them in a pill. We're concentrating certain nutrients, but not having the overall benefits of those fruits and vegetables.
But also what these chronic disease states are is when people gain weight, they're more likely to, you know, like with their diabetes, it would get out of control. And so by following the Mediterranean or eating more fruits and vegetables decreases our caloric intake and also helps with weight control, along with getting the phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals we need. So there's many positives to that. So it's good.
Certain types of cancer, you can decrease your risk of illness by 40%, just by weight loss or healthy weight management.
Yeah, avoiding weight gain. Well, yeah.
So we're missing out on some of those essential vitamins and minerals, and also fiber that fruits and vegetables provide. A lot of times fiber can really help keep you regular, which helps you eat healthy as well.
It gives you fullness.
It does. It
Yeah.
gives you that satiation, which helps with weight management. And this is all part of the anti-inflammatory foods and the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle that you've heard us talk about before. So that includes more fruits and vegetables, more chicken and fish, the healthy fats such as olive oil and avocado, and we have a couple recipes with avocado today. Whole grains, and then low-fat dairy.
And it also makes, the fruits and vegetables make eating more interesting because there's more crunch and variety. You take more time to eat it. And just remember, when you do include more fruits and vegetables, that you chew your foods well, digestion starts in your mouth. It's called mechanical digestion, where you're starting to break it down. But it does add to the enjoyment because it's like mouthfeel, they call it, like changing the shapes of different foods you're eating to make the meals more interesting. Fruits and vegetables will do that. So
I feel like too, then, we always talk about the variety of colors and making sure that you're getting kind of, I know we've used the term eating from the rainbow a lot. So those variety of colors are giving a variety of nutrients. And we get the questions a lot about supplements, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later.
yeah.
But sometimes the supplements are not giving you the right balance. So, for example, in milk, we have the calcium, the vitamin D, and the magnesium for calcium absorption. So we have calcium separately, which is sometimes needed if you're not tolerating milk, but sometimes the food is providing us that perfect triumvirate for absorption.
And you could also get toxicity by consuming too much of the fat-soluble vitamins. They stay in our body longer. So we really have to be careful. Don't take the easy way out by just popping a pill. Try to get it from food. It's much more enjoyable. Okay,
So what types of fruits and vegetables are the most nutritious?
well, I can't say that one single food is the most,
We
but
can't pick, yeah.
no. But a variety of plant-based foods have been shown to lower risk of many types of cancer. So no single food or food substance can protect you against cancer, but evidence is mounting that the minerals, vitamins, fiber, phytochemicals in plant foods interact to provide extra cancer protection. So nutrition, inflammation, and cancer are all connected, and we want to focus on the anti-inflammatory foods, which there's so many of the vegetables that we use all the time are anti-inflammatory. And we'll talk more about it, but eat for color now, include a variety of colors. The simple way to.
And I think a lot of times people don't know what that means as far as inflammation.
Yeah.
So there's chronic inflammation. We kind of know, like, if you twist your ankle, you have inflammation in your ankle and your leg or your foot will swell up. We're talking about chronic inflammation, which is throughout your body. And that's when at the cell level, that's when the disease can start.
If it's constantly
Exactly.
in a chronic state of inflammation, that's what's going to lead to these disease states. But when Mary was mentioning about the ankle, or if you've got a blister or a cut, your body's equipped. That's acute inflammation. Your body is equipped. It's pretty amazing that whatever's in you go right to that source and help repair and heal. And after a couple of days, your body did it for you. But it's the things that aren't being in control can lead to the disease states and increased inflammation.
Exactly. That's why we're always talking about those anti-inflammatory foods like fresh berries, broccoli and cauliflower, citrus. We have some lemon in our recipes today. Adding cinnamon to yogurt, adding turmeric to roasted vegetables. Those are all decreasing inflammation.
And when you eat those foods, that means you're now in control of decreasing your risk of inflammation. It's something that you can do yourself to help with that. So Mary, why is it important to eat this produce fresh?
Well, fresh fruits and vegetables are best at their peak maturity. They contain increased amounts of nutrients such as vitamin C. And if you have more vitamin C, if there's less processing by heat. So if you pick it from the garden and put it in your salad that night, you don't have to have it in a truck across the country. And we know if there are different temperatures and it is heated up, you're going to have a little bit of that decreased vitamin C. The produce offers higher B vitamin levels too if there's less transportation time. So you're going to have more of those B vitamins to help your cell mechanics if you don't have that long transportation. And then you can also have higher amounts of the fat soluble nutrients, just like Nancy was talking about a minute ago. And those are like vitamins A and E, and as well as carotenoids such as lycopene and tomatoes. Because of less changes in heat, light, and oxygen. So those are all factors. And so,
I just want to say one more thing. Every word enjoys. It is good to get a daily source of vitamin C. And it's pretty widely available. Like you can get it from red peppers or green, any of the peppers and citrus fruits. And we do actually prefer that you eat a whole fruit to get your vitamin C rather than just drinking juice. And it takes a little bit more, but you're going to get the fiber that way too and less concentrated like sugars. But it is something that we do need daily because it's a water soluble vitamin, whereas A and E are fat soluble. So you could do that every other day if you wanted. But
right, you're
Yeah.
gonna store those a little bit longer.
yeah,
So, yeah, so does distribution of the produce make a difference?
it does. When you think of it, fruit and vegetables, they may take 5 days to arrive at a distribution center if grown in the United States. If grown in the southern hemisphere, which would be more like winter and spring, then possibly a few extra days to several weeks in transit. Then you may see fruit and vegetables on display for 1 to 3 days and then another 1 to 7 days before the produce actually gets on our table. So it can take up to like 15 days to land on our table. And you know, when you think of it too, the produce is coming in on a truck and then it gets set up in the produce department. We always encourage people to wash the outside of your produce, meaning everything. And it's just running water and maybe having a little brush that you can rub on it. But, you know, outside of a melon or an avocado or lime or lemon. And we do that here. It just, when you start doing it, it becomes a habit and it's no big deal. But think about it. It's coming in on a truck. Sometimes people drop it, put it back on the shelf. I've seen where kids in the summertime are playing with green beans or whatever. So yeah, you do want to give it a washing. It's important.
And make sure you get some, especially in treatment, make sure you're getting some
Right.
friction on there. We don't really recommend that you need any type of rinse or
No,
vinegar, just water. But having some friction, sometimes we'll even recommend having a produce brush so you can get into the little crevices.
and things like celery notoriously has dirt on it. That's bacteria. So you do want to, especially that, use the brush. Some things that have a smooth surface, it may not be so necessary. You can kind of use your hands to manipulate it. But textural kind of surfaces, a brush would be helpful.
I think a lot of people don't realize when you have a melon, for example, when you're cutting into the melon, if it's not washed, then whatever is on the outside of that skin goes right into the fruit that you're eating. So a lot of times we think, well, it doesn't matter about the peel because we're not eating it. But it does matter when you're cutting into it because then the bacteria could go in that way.
And when the farmers markets start, sometimes you might see a farmer cutting in and offering samples. That's a big no. Like if the health department came in, they would tell them to knock it off, you know? So, but I do like those farmers because they have a wealth of information. So it's just maybe ones that don't realize that and they'll soon find out. So, but just in general with purchasing produce, don't overbuy. You don't want to waste it by having to throw it out and if it goes bad. And try to use like seasonal foods. And there's recipes on the website that give you ideas. But even if you were like opening like the Jewel, say, they'll say, I think it's called like Red Alert, or it just shows what's in season and, you know, they'll have it on sale. So try to plan your meals around that to get a better price.
Sometimes in the grocery stores too, they'll have a farm stand section. I think Meyer has that where there's one little section that's a farm stand and then you know that
Yeah.
it's more locally grown, which is good. But I like what you said about using your senses.
Well, that I wanted to just mention,
Yeah.
when you do want to rely on your senses when you're picking out produce, your eyes, what does it look like? Are there blemishes? Some people might even smell it a little. I wouldn't taste it there. I mean, I don't think that's really appropriate. But your hands too, what does it feel like? Is it firm if it's supposed to be firm, or is it mushy? So utilize that. And one thing I've seen that's kind of tricky, sometimes those stickers on stuff, and you get it home, you peel back the sticker and it's covering a blemish. And I'm like, that's tricking. So kind of be careful with that, be aware, but don't just pick it up and put it in your cart, you know, because even strawberries, I had bought strawberries recently and when I opened it up, kind of in the middle, there was some bad ones. So just take a little extra time. And they do say, try to purchase your produce as the last thing when you're shopping, because it's not getting crushed, you know, with the other supplies you might be getting.
I like the idea too of buying produce, say you're buying greens and you're buying melons and then you're buying broccoli. So if you're using up the lettuce, earlier in the week, then, it won't go bad. If you save it to the later in the week, the broccoli is gonna hold up a little bit more. It's got a lot more, texture to it. So eat your lettuce and those kinds of things that perish early in the week, and then you could have melon and then maybe roast some broccoli. And, you know, a lot of times we get a question like, I can't eat the fresh fruits and vegetables. Frozen is certainly an option.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say too, the vegetables, they have a high water content. Those tend to go bad quicker. They're the ones you're gonna put in your refrigerator. But every so often you, like just before grocery shopping, kind of go through your bins and see what needs. I just made a fried rice. It really didn't have much oil in it, but it was a way to get a lot of vegetables in there. But I was doing that purposely to use stuff up and then take inventory before I go grocery shopping. Because we all know food costs is going up and you really have to be a smart shopper. And maybe you have to make an extra trip to the grocery store during the week instead of a once a week because of that. I try to minimize what I'm getting, use it up, and then make another shopping trip. Yeah. So Mary, what are the recommendations for selecting produce and also storing it?
Yeah, buy what you plan to use and beware of bulk sales. And try to shop local if you can. And we talked about that a little bit. You want to kind of look and see what's in season. We're getting ready for berry season, which I'm super excited about.
And those you can freeze.
I
So
know.
if you do buy those in bulk, it's
Right.
okay. But what do you mean by bulk, buying in bulk?
Yeah, you don't want to buy things that are in the bulk bins. I think that's, but also if you're buying large quantities, then things are going to go bad. So you want to make sure to buy the quantities that you're going to use up.
Yeah.
And then kind of do it like we talked about, where you eat the things that are going to perish first in your fridge, and they kind of go through with the ones that are going to go bad later.
Because if there was a big bag of potatoes, like, what a great price. And then you get them home and there's like 2 people, you're gonna be eating potatoes every day. And that might get really old and you end up throwing some out, because sometimes potatoes go bad a little quicker, you know.
We do recommend too, if that's how you do like to shop, then it might be a good idea to prepare them and freeze them. So you could cook them where you make a big batch of potato soup. Since you brought up potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
And then you can put that in the freezer, and then that's a great way to have the cost be less, still get your produce in, but, you know, have it in the freezer when it's ready to go. So yeah, I think once they're picked, like fruits and vegetables, they begin to have high rates of respiration, and they're losing moisture and they're losing quality and also nutrients. And there's also that potential for the microbial spoilage, like Nancy was talking about those strawberries in the middle.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that fruits and vegetables may, since they may take like 15 days to get to your doorstep from the farm, you want to make sure that you're eating them quickly and consuming those ones that perish first sooner. You want to avoid the visible damage, as Nancy mentioned, and also off smells. And then purchase produce towards the end of your shopping trip, like she mentioned, to preserve the temperature. You also don't want to have things in your car for a long time. So if you're buying berries, things that are perishable like that, even lettuces, tomatoes, and you're going somewhere else to a park where it might be 90 degrees in your car, that's gonna not last very long. So it's mandatory that you do that. Maybe take a cooler so that you can keep things cool. And then also remember to keep produce separate from bags that have meat, poultry, or fish. Those are going to be, we don't want that spoilage or that cross-contamination from the meats.
And if we have meat, don't go to the park. Go to the park first.
That's got to
And then do
go
your
right
grocery
into the fridge for
Yeah.
sure. And you also want to store them. You want to store the fresh produce higher than the meat. So have the meats in a very low shelf and then have the produce not touching, but at a higher level.
Or if you have
So-
bins, you know, you can put there. But yeah, you should put raw meat on the lowest shelf So in case there's leakage, it's not dripping onto that other foods that are cooked on the same shelf or right below it.
So fresh produce is often perishable and should be stored in a clean refrigerator at less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the usual temperature for a
Yeah.
refrigerator, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. Sometimes refrigerators, I've noticed, since we're in a lot of kitchens, if you put it too close to the sides of the refrigerator or something, part of the produce will get frozen. And then it's not going to be tasty.
No.
You may be able to put it in a soup if it's like spinach or something, if you use it quickly, but it will have less nutrient value as well. So kind of make sure you know your refrigerator. And I love the idea, like you said, of getting the bad things out. If things are already moldy and deteriorating in your refrigerator, that bacteria is going to go to the clean produce much more quickly. So try to keep those things in a nice cold place.
And it's gonna be a bigger job to clean your refrigerator too, if you've got to deal with that,
Exactly.
no fun.
So some exceptions are that you want to keep out and not in the refrigerator would be tomatoes, onions, potatoes, the squashes like butternut squash, acorn squash, garlic, shallots, and bananas. Although bananas, if they are starting to go bad, now my mother-in-law puts them in the freezer with the peel on. I like to take them out of the peel and freeze them that way. And then they're great for banana bread or muffins or whatever you want to make. So, but the basic rule of thumb is that vegetables with a high water content should be refrigerated. And these are the ones that go bad more quickly.
Like cucumbers, zucchini, peppers, corn,
Lettuce.
yeah, things like that. I was gonna say too, with potatoes, what I found, like in the winter, when it's a little bit warmer in your house, potatoes start growing those little eyes or whatever you call them, and get kind of green. So I found if I can find a cool spot in the house, so like our garage is heated, but not hot heated, it's not freezing. So I sometimes put a bag of potatoes on my husband's workbench. He's like, what are these doing here? But at least it's gonna prevent them from going bad too quick, so.
Yeah, like a cool, I use my basement. It's in a kind of
yeah,
a cool,
that's good,
dry
yeah.
place.
Mhm.
And, probably like 68, 70 degrees is a
Yeah.
good for storing. Store produce that needs to be ripened, like avocado, bananas, nectarines, peaches, tomatoes, apples, plums. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So you want to store those separately because they need to ripen. And a lot of times you can put them in a paper bag with a banana or without. They will help ripen. I love doing that during peach season because you want to take full advantage of those
Yeah.
peaches and you don't want them to go bad.
Yeah.
After fruit ripens, it can be refrigerated, but this can cause taste or moisture changes in some produce. So you want to be careful about that. We're going to talk about herbs, but normally I would wash the herbs and store them in a rolled paper towel in the refrigerator, except for basil. Usually I would keep that out and just keep it in water, kind of like the parsley in a glass here, and then use it up fairly quickly. So
Yeah, it's a delicate plant, I find. It doesn't last that long. It'll start going bad.
Right,
So
right.
have a plan for it when you purchase it.
Exactly. So we're in the May, June season.
Yeah.
What is in season right now so that they'll
Yeah.
know what to get?
Well, I think asparagus because I see it all the time in the store, which is wonderful. It's a sign of spring. And there's so much you can do with it. I've seen it where people cut into small little pieces and then throw it into eggs or frittata or risotto. So that's fun. So change the cutting of it instead of just keeping it in spears. And when you get asparagus, you just break the end. There's like a woody part at the end. You just break it off and you don't even have to use a knife. And so asparagus is wonderful.
I think too, a lot of times, I've seen some recipes now that I've tried where you can use it raw.
Oh, yeah.
So you can just
Yeah.
chop it up and use it raw. It doesn't necessarily have to be cooked and mushy, and it provides a nice
Well,
flavor.
we were talking about, I was watching the news and they had a demo making asparagus pesto. I thought that was really interesting. So instead of basil, say, you still add olive oil, and Parmesan and maybe pine nuts, or I sometimes use slivered almonds. But they made a pesto that way, and I thought that's really cool, something different. So some of the fruits and vegetables would be apples, asparagus, beets, broccoli, cabbage, garlic, herbs, lettuce, onion, peas, potatoes, radishes, rhubarb, spinach, summer squash, Swiss chard, and then fresh fruits and vegetables are best at their peak maturity.
I love rhubarb season.
Yeah,
I'm growing some rhubarb at our house, and it takes about 3 years for the plant to mature. So it took me a while, but now I have a good crop, and it freezes really well, and it's really gives kind of a savory, like taste to muffins, and
yeah, and you make a jam with it too,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
I love.
I
the
sampled
rhubarb
her,
jam.
her good work.
This is a good time to get rhubarb, and if you like it, it freezes really well. I usually chop it up into little 1-inch pieces, wash it really well, of course, before you freeze it, and then put it in, a nice one of those Ziplocs, and yeah, you can freeze it really well.
So a lot of the vegetables and fruits I just mentioned have a high vitamin C content, and they offer B vitamin levels, higher B vitamin levels due to less processing by heat. And then they provide higher fat soluble nutrients such as vitamins A and E, as well as carotenoids such as lycopene because of reduced changes in heat, light, and oxygen. And tomatoes actually are more nutritious cooked because you get that lycopene. But I can't wait for tomato season. I know it's going to be a while, and we are doing a class on that. I think it's in August. But so delicious. And I just want to say too is like, I'm not really a gardener. My husband will do it, but I love to reap the produce. So sometimes I'll just go to a little farm stand near me, and I do find it's a little pricey, but I get my tomatoes there, and that's what I'll pay whatever for. And then the rest of it I can get, I would just probably go to the grocery store, But,
Yeah, and sometimes you can find them
yeah.
for less money too.
Yeah, but even just a sliced tomato with balsamic vinegar and maybe some chives or scallions on it is really delicious. But the American Institute for Cancer Research recommends filling at least 2/3 of your plate with non-starchy vegetables, whole grains, and fruit, and fill the remaining 1/3 or less with lean protein or plant-based protein. So Mary, what about growing herbs? Do they have nutrition benefits?
Yeah, nutrient-rich herbs add punch and flavor to meals. And there are many herbs that are easy to grow, even in small raised beds or pots on your patio. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
We're almost done.
The fresh herbs can be really expensive. So when you're buying them in those little packets, they can be $2, $3, not usually 3, more like $3, $4, $5, $6. So if you're growing them, it's a great way to have those in your meals. And if you're using fresh herbs in your recipes, you usually need less salt. And that is decreasing inflammation. To decrease inflammation overall, we talked about fruits and vegetables, but we also want less salt and less sugar. So that all helps with that chronic inflammation.
But a lot of times, I personally don't add salt. I try to use garlic, onion, fresh herbs. And then when you taste it, if it needs a little something, maybe you could put a little tiny pinch of salt. But even other things like vinegars and mustards, there's a lot of flavor enhancers out there that.
Right, those have sodium in them already. So some herbs provide a variety of possible health benefits as well. Basil, for example, could reduce blood cholesterol, and it may have anti-inflammatory properties, like we talked about, and help with joint pain, as well as reducing the risk of hardening of the arteries and help with cancer prevention. So what about other herbs?
Okay, well, dill is a good one. It may help improve poor appetite, may help with liver or gallbladder problems, may help with colds or coughs, or even kidney disease. And that is I like to grow some herbs. I might not be the one tending to them, but I'll use it in like salmon or making, what else is good?
We're kind of back to the pickles.
Oh. But it just smells so fresh when you cut it. And even if you want to just throw it in a salad, it gives flavor and the aroma is wonderful.
Even when we were cooking here, we really, we have a couple of different salads, but you could smell the fresh herbs in the
Yeah.
whole room because we used 3 or 4 of them today. So, yeah.
And mint also helps with symptoms such as nausea and vomiting, headaches, and possibly muscle and nerve pain or other stomach concerns. That is something I do know is that you should probably try and grow mint in a big pot because it will take over a garden. And it's nice just even in a refreshing drink or in a hot tea, you know, if you're looking for some soothing,
I like it in a salad too.
yeah, oh yeah, like a Greek salad.
Yeah, Greek salad
Yeah.
or even like a watermelon, mint,
Yeah.
feta salad. Mhm.
And then sage may help with memory loss or Alzheimer's. Basil may reduce cholesterol, as Mary said. And these all will have like anti-inflammatory properties. But yeah, if you're not real, you know, familiar with how to use herbs, just chopping them up, putting a salad is a #1 start. Putting it in salad dressing, and then like dill with salmon and potatoes. That's what I was trying to think of, like the little red skin potatoes that you boil, delicious that way. And parsley, I like, this is Italian parsley, which has a little bit more flavor. It's good with cooking, and that's good in chicken and in salads. And sage is nice in sweet potatoes or pork, and then basil in Italian dishes. So Mary, how should we start if we want to start? Show me.
Well, we want to start small. And I've just become a gardener recently in the last few years. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be super complicated. I think, you know, when you're planting a whole garden, you know, it's okay to have some experimentation and to make sure that you're trying it. And, you know, you can try the cherry tomato and see if it tastes good. And if not, wait a couple of days for the other ones. So I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by gardening, but it doesn't have to be that way. And
Well,
you learn more as you go along.
It takes devotion because you can plant them, but then you gotta tend to them. And that's the part I'm lacking in. So, yeah, and the proper sun and moisture, like, how did you learn all that? Just through trial and error or?
Working in gardens, and I've always been interested in gardening, so, you know, keep talking to people. You can also go to the local cooperative extension offices. They're very helpful, and they have classes on gardening, and they have master gardeners that can come and help if you're tending to a bigger garden at a school or something like that. So that's a really good resource. So you could start small though. So you can even buy, today we're going to show some potting where you can even buy a plant at the grocery store and
hardware store.
and repot it. And so I think we're just about ready to show you that now. Okay, so we're going to move over to our little planting area and start out with Nancy's going to start out over here.
Oh, the devil.
So we're going to take some of this now. Okay. So this is seed starter mix, and this is what we want to use when we're starting seeds because it has some ingredients that are letting the roots go through it really easily. In it, we're going to use this potting mix because it can be a little more dense because the plant is developed and the roots are already developed. So if you want to scoop in some, oh, before we do this, sorry, the bottom of the pot has these little holes. And a lot of times people think you have to put in a whole slew of rocks at the bottom, but you really don't. You can just put a couple of these.
So those are little glass, like you see sometimes in a vase. So that's kind of handy. A lot of people have those hanging around.
Yeah, you can just put those at the bottom. So they kind of cover up the holes so the soil won't go through.
What if you have seashells or like anything like that? Would that be okay? Or
seashells are
they carry
a little too porous, and they might get crunched. But if you have, if you have some small solid ones like that,
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, so you can go ahead and take the seed mix in. Now, what you're going to do is make sure that the soil is damp. So once you put it in, put some water in there, and if you have a little watering can, that would be great.
You can tell me when to stop.
Yeah, just keep filling it up, and we can dump it in too if you need to.
Go that route.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put a little water halfway through, and then we want to just kind of make sure that the soil is damp. There you go.
Is that good?
One more. So want to make sure the soil is damp, and then in a perfect world, I'm gonna do this a little bit more quickly today, but you would put the soil in here, and then make sure that the soil is damp, and it looks like it's yeah, a little bit. But what you want to do is make sure that the soil is nice and damp. So you would water it and make sure to stir it up, and I like to kind of get my hands in there too. And then once it's nice and damp, you can just put the seeds, you can, just dig like a little 1-inch hole, Nancy. And then
How
put
many
the
do I put
seeds,
in?
you can put in 3 or 4.
Oh.
And then we would kind of cover it up and then water it. But when it's first coming, when it's first planted like this, you want to do, like a spray bottle so you don't have the plant.
Do you want me to use all these?
No, that's all of you. Then you can put dirt on the top.
Okay.
And then we would probably use a spray bottle, but we'll do a little bit of water. I'm
You
just
want
gonna
dirt?
kind of, or dirt. Yeah, just a little bit of that on top. So the key thing to remember is that you want a pot, it doesn't really matter. You can use a smaller pot like this or this size pot, but you really need that seed starting mix if you're doing straight from seed. So next, we're gonna come over here and we're going to, you can see this pot is really big, probably a 12-inch pot. And that's what you want to do for the basil. So you want to take that
Yeah,
out.
I like
I'm
that.
gonna dig a little hole. Now this is potting mix, as you can see here in this big box. And, I got the organic because that's what I like to use. And then you're gonna dig a hole. Now this, plant, we just got these plants at Lowe's.
Yeah.
So, you can see that they're kind of root bound already and they are ready for some bigger space. Just dig a little hole. No, that's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
You want to kind of break apart the roots just a little bit, but not break them off so that they have room to kind of grow in the dirt a little bit. And then you want to pour a little water in the bottom of the hole so that it's nice and moist, so the roots will get water right away. And then you put that into the pot and then you're going to cover it with dirt. So I think one of the key things to remember with this is that, first of all, you need the potting soil. I'm gonna give it another
So
little
this is the
drink.
potting soil.
This is the potting soil, but also look at the size of the pot. Now, a lot of times people they would say, hey, I need a pot about this size or about,
Yeah,
let me show this size again. This size, right? It fits in there,
yeah.
but no.
What I would be tempted to put 2 plants in there.
Right,
But
but you
don't do that.
shouldn't, right?
Okay.
Because this one basil plant will go 4 feet high. And then what you want to do is harvest underneath the plant, and then the top leaves will continue to grow.
So you mean by
So-
that, pull little leaves off as you need it?
That's
From
right.
the bottom?
Kind of pull these little leaves from the bottom, like that. Use those in your salads. But
Wash
if
them
you take
first.
take all of the leaves off,
Oh,
then there's nothing there for the plant to continue to grow.
yeah.
So if you harvest from the bottom, smell them. Good. So harvest from the bottom, and then you'll be able to use that in your recipes. And if you want to make a big pesto towards the end of the season, I mean, you have to kind of collect your basil because that takes 8 cups or so. You can make a small amount too, but, then maybe at the end you want to have 2 pots and you just take the whole plant and take all the leaves off, and that's the end of the season for that basil plant. But you make a beautiful pesto and then you freeze the pesto. So that's
In
kinda
ice cube
nice.
trays.
That's right, ice cube trays, yeah. So just remember potting soil for this and then a really big pot, so it'll get nice and full, like a little, it'll be nice big bush.
Well, that's very inspirational. Cool. Should we show them our recipes now?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, so we just need a minute to wash our hands and then, we can just leave this here or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So Nancy's gonna demonstrate the first recipe, and then I'll show you another one, and we're gonna be using things that contain herbs. So here she is.
So the recipe I'm doing is called a tomato arugula and avocado. So when we chose these recipes, we wanted to pick things that you might commonly have in your garden. I mean, you wouldn't have avocados, but those are something that you can easily get from the grocery store. So we would have a bed of arugula, and arugula is really nice, kind of a pepper. You can even mix it with other greens if you don't want so much of that peppery flavor. And then we're just gonna add, I've already put some tomato in there, I'll do another one. I like to use a serrated knife when I do the tomato, it cuts much more easily. So just do some slices and then just cut them up into smaller pieces. You could even do like cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes and just kind of just cut them in half. That's something. So this onto the salad. Then I cut up, I had just got like a seedless tomato, not a tomato, a cucumber, and chop that up. So here's some little pieces of that. And I cut up the avocado. The recipe called for either red pepper or green pepper. But I thought today was a little green pepper. I don't really use green pepper that much. I prefer the red, but might just give a more interesting flavor. And then got the color here, some purple, which would be like a red onion. So you can see there are a variety of colors on this platter. And then let's see, we're gonna add some basil. So I'll just show you with basil to make it easy to slice. There's a technique called chiffonade where you pile up your basil and roll it. And then you can just slice it in slivers. It goes really quick. We're just gonna put that all over here, and you can add more too. It just gives some nice flavor. And then there's a little salad dressing. It's olive oil with some lemon juice. I'll add a little bit more. And then I kind of doctored up. I put a little squirt of Dijon mustard, and I'm going to add a little red wine vinegar too. Can we put that away? But this is fine. Lemon juice and then Dijon. I'm just pour some over here. And then top it with some sesame seeds. And I already added some black pepper to it. So, and then I do have some garlic, but the recipe didn't call for it. I was thinking I might add it, but I think that's plenty. There we go. So it's a nice little side salad, or you can make it as your main course. Maybe have some grilled chicken or salmon with it. But you're getting a lot of good color and nutrition.
All right, well, we have a lot of things to show you today. I wanted to show you this pasta salad and orzo today. I combined quite a bit of it before, just so that we would make sure to have enough time. But the orzo is easy to cook, and I think it's kind of a nice alternative to some of the pasta salads that we have out there. It gives you a little bit of a different texture. And we're using a lot of fresh herbs in this salad. So in the salad, we have tomatoes. It calls for Roma tomatoes, and those are a variety of plum tomato that's not as liquidy. So it kind of works out nicely in this recipe. And then we have some Kalamata olives, which are part of the Mediterranean diet as well, having that healthy fat. But also it gives it a little bit of savory, a little bit of a different texture, which we were talking about. And then we do have some fresh lemon in the vinaigrette as well, along with a little red wine vinegar. Just a quick plug too. The recipes will be on the website. So if you go to the culinary nutrition section in Living Well Cancer Resources, we have a lot of recipes there. From our quick bites where we did some video ones as well as just the printed ones. And Ashley has been so good about keeping that all up to date with all of our new recipes. So check that out. we have lots of things coming too, upcoming classes.
Mary, that's a wonderful salad. I've sometimes even substituted the Kalamata olives for black olives. You know, some people have different taste preferences, and it would still be Mediterranean, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have, the recipe calls for feta, and we decided to use avocado today, which I think will be really good. And then I like the brightness of the citrus or the lemon, but that's also anti-inflammatory, which is good. And then we have a lot of fresh herbs. So we've got some of these basil, and I did that chiffonade, like Nancy said. Just, it's an easy way to cut it up and throw it in. And then I like the oregano. The fresh oregano smells really good. Oregano is also a plant that you can plant once and it comes back every year. So it's a perennial. So that's kind of nice. Even if you put it in your raised bed, you might need a little bit of the organic fertilizer, but fresh oregano really makes a big difference. So I usually take it off of the stem just like this and then do a quick dice. But you can also do a tool where you have a little hole and you can pull it through and it comes through quickly. So you just want to kind of chop that up. And so that's what I did here. And then I did the basil. So we're going to add all of those fresh herbs and really smooth. That's one thing I like about this pasta salad recipe is that it's got all these fresh herbs. And let it sit in the fridge for a little while before you eat it. You'll really taste those flavors. But look at the colors too. I feel like those fresh herbs really are wonderful. And then, you know, just a little bit of pepper. With all the herbs in there, you don't need a lot of salt. So, and you've got some salt, like I said, in the olives and in the vinegar. So that turns out really beautiful. And then I like to take some of the herbs and do just a little quick garnish there on the side. Let's see if I can. And then,
In conclusion, yeah.
Over here.
Sure. In conclusion, studies have shown that gardening helps improve health, and you saw that today by, you know, inspiring us to include more fruits and vegetables in our diet. Gardening is the #1 hobby for both males and females, and that's really cool. And gardening benefits the ecosystem. People tend to eat more produce when they grow it themselves, or, you know, don't forget the farmers markets out there. Shop local. The farmers are really knowledgeable. I remember about 10 or 15 years ago, I went to one and the farmer, he was the actual farmer and he was roasting beets and letting us try some. And that's when I realized there's all different kinds of beets. There's golden and red and candy striped and I tasted it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I bought some and that was my introduction to beets because I think over our lifespan, you can always try new vegetables and new ways of preparing it. Eat a variety of fruits and vegetables for maximum nutrition. Buy fresh produce in season. And, you know, when inspecting your produce, make sure, you know, you check for any blemishes before just grabbing it. And start a garden. And if you're not having the space or the ambition to start a big garden, you can start small, try herbs first. And those are pretty manageable.
Yeah,
and then
put it in a pot.
Yeah. And, you know, raised beds. I know my little granddaughter has learned how to garden and they're just so excited when they see something growing that they then use, you know, in their family meals. So it's really cool. So thank you again for joining us today. We do have a new brochure out with a new class schedule for the summer. And so please join us. We would love to have you. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. Have a great day.